2 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Gene. And I'd like to thank everyone for coming and participating in this event. And I'd really like to thank the Valley Independent Sentinel and our Student Council. I think it's wonderful Student Council is involved in this. They are our upcoming leaders, and I think it's wonderful that they're here tonight and were involved in the organizing of this event. I'd like to identify myself. I'm Jean Loda. I've lived in this town for 46 years, and I've been very, very involved in a lot of boards. I was on civil service for 6 years, and I was chairman. I was on the Board of Finance for 4 years. I was on the Board of Selectmen for 2 years, and I've been on the Board of Education for 14 years. And in those 14 years, at present, I am vice chairman of the Board of Ed, and I am also chairman of the Liaison Committee. And the Liaison Committee basically negotiates all the union contracts and is various other duties, but that's one of our main duties. And I decided to run because over the 46 years I've lived in this town, I've seen faces come, names come, administrations come and go, but nothing ever changes politically. So I just think it's time that we start doing things a little differently. And I felt that by my running, it gives the people of Seymour a third choice. And I am a petitioning Democratic candidate, but I am not beholden to any party. The only people I'm beholden to will be the people of Seymour. And I will definitely try, and I will work very hard and do my best for the citizens of this town. As I said, I've had a lot of experience on a lot of boards, and I think that experience will be very helpful in being First Selectman. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Paul Roy, the Democratic incumbent. Mr. Roy, you have 2 minutes. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Eugene. I would like to thank the Valley Independent Sentinel for offering this challenge to me and to Mr. Miller and Mrs. Loda to debate this evening, and especially to Mr. Eugene Driscoll of the Sentinel for moderating this debate. I would also like to express my appreciation and thanks to the members of the Student Council for their participation and assistance in making the debate possible. Finally, I would like to thank everyone in the audience and my constituents who will view the taping of this debate at a later time for participating in this important democratic process. As you know, I am the current First Selectman of Seymour. I have been the First Selectman for 2 years. I have been a lifetime resident of Seymour. Grew up in with a family of 10 kids. So we know how to be frugal and we know how to share. I also have experience on other boards. I was on the Board of Selectmen for 4 years, and I was a union officer and steward and a state officer for the Connecticut State Association of Letter Carriers when I worked in the Postal Service for 33.5 years. The reason why I never ran for an office sooner than that is because when you work in the Postal Service, you're governed by the Hatch Act, which says that you cannot run for an elected office. So tonight's debate will help you to understand why I should be elected for a second term as your First Selectman. We have made progress, and plans are in place to keep Seymour making progress. I don't believe that running for the First Selectman is a tradition, nor is it something you do in retaliation for something, but rather a chance to work hard for your community to move it forward, and that is an honor and a privilege for me.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next opening statement is from Kurt Miller, the Republican candidate. Mr. Miller, you have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you, Eugene. Thank you, Eugene. As my opponents have said, I too would like to very much thank the Valley Independent Sentinel for co-sponsoring this debate tonight. The debate is something that we haven't seen in Seymour, unfortunately, in a few election cycles. I think it's an exceptional opportunity for the residents of Seymour to come out and hear what the candidates have to say. See how we address issues and problems that are put to us on the spot, as opposed to the canned things that you hear at the door, the things that we're prepared to say. As a former vice president of the Student Council of Seymour High School, I'm actually thrilled that the Student Council is involved in this because I think it's an exceptional learning opportunity for them. When I was in high school, I had the opportunity to go to Boise State. It was something that helped kind of shape the path that I would take going forward. And hopefully this opportunity is going to be the same thing for our high school students. They are the leaders of tomorrow. So the sooner that we can get them exposed and into public service, I think that's the best thing for all of us. As I've been knocking on doors over the last couple of months, one of the things that I've heard, which I thought is quite interesting, is people have said that the campaign seems very quiet. I wasn't sure what they meant by that, so I asked the person, and the person said, well, we don't see the usual mudslinging and the name-calling and the bickering back and forth that we normally see in most campaigns. And the response that I gave to them is the response that I'm going to give to you tonight. And that's because I honestly and truly believe that I am friends with both Mrs. Loda and Mr. Roy. I was before this process started, and I will be at the conclusion of this process. And when you're friends with people, when you have respect for each other, the name-calling and the bickering is at a minimum. And what you do is you honestly discuss and debate the issues at hand, the things that are important to the town of Seymour. So the one thing I'm going to ask each of you to do tonight is to think about who you think would truly be the best candidate for First Selectman for the town of Seymour. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we're on to the second round. The first question for the candidates tonight comes from the Seymour High School Student Council. I need a moment to grab my... I'm sorry, sorry about that. As I embarrassingly ask the question, the first question tonight is, are you in favor of moving the central office location to the high school? Mr. Miller, you have up to 2 minutes to answer the Student Council's question. Go ahead.
It's actually a very interesting question, and one at this point I think is very difficult to answer. The reason why I say that is up until now we have not done a full evaluation of the existing space that we have within our town buildings. We currently have several buildings, one being 98 Bank Street where the Board of Education is currently located, the community center, or as I refer to it, the old middle school, and Lopresti School, which again for those of us who've been here a long time still referred to as Maple Street School. To be honest, at this point, I don't have an answer as to where would be the best place to put the Board of Education. Currently, there has been no real dialogue back and forth between the parties making these decisions. I feel that the Board of Education has not been included in the process, and up until now, the only building that we've truly studied has been 98 Bank Street. We've yet to evaluate the needs of the Board of Education and what each building offers, particularly with the community center as well as Lopresti School. So at this point, because of where we stand, I would say that I would be against the high school accepting the Board of Education for their new central office location.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Loda, you have 2 minutes to answer the question or rebut. Go right ahead.
Well, I know you're not supposed to agree with your opponent, but I do agree with what Mr. Miller just said. We were told as Board of Ed member back in last December that that Mr. Roy was interested in selling the building at 98 Bank Street. And basically the superintendent was kind of told, you know, they'd like us out by June, this past June, early summer. And we were kind of surprised at that because there had been no discussion. The Board of Education, the central office, nobody had been included in any of this discussion, or, you know, they didn't come to the board or the central office to ask what our opinion was or what the pros and cons of the whole situation was. So as a result, we weren't really in favor of it at this time, because one of the questions we asked was, has there been a study? Has there been a cost study? Has there been an architectural study? Has there been an engineering study? And the answer was no, but they were going to do that. Now, this is back in last December. Now, we just took, my husband went to their meeting that they had, because up to that, then there were no minutes of any meetings that they had, since we did have a walkthrough with them in the summertime. And we took them through the whole school. That's all they asked of the Board of Ed and the superintendent, was to walk through the school and be shown every nook and cranny to see what the viability of moving central office up here was. And it was the opinion of the majority of the board and the administration that it's not a good situation. Other towns have tried this, And inevitably, they always end up going somewhere else and getting their own building. And one of the major problems is we're concerned with security. You have a lot of people coming in and out of central office, and how do we secure the high school for our students? That is a major problem.